Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Happy 1 o'clock. How's your Monday going? Brilliant, brilliant. I'm so glad. Thank you, Dawn and Tanya, for being on camera. Who else can I guilt into turning their camera on today? Because it's just not the same when we don't see your gorgeous face. There's Mary Russo, speaking of gorgeous. There we have it. Boy, nobody else, huh?
What about Debbie?
Well, she's part of the show today, so I was going with audience members only.
Got it.
All right, thank you, Julie. We appreciate that.
I have a question already.
Yes, ma'am.
Just since we're talking about offers and bidding wars, my clients are getting ready to put in an offer. They know there are going to be multiple offers, and we're trying to see, possible some cash, doing the going to contract versus just writing the purchase offer, no contingencies, writing a letter, all of those things and above. So I'm just trying to find out if there's anything else that I'm missing.
There could be a whole bunch of things that you could maybe have a discussion with them, Julie.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hit that. Give us
okay.
A bit. We're gonna get there.
You would. Thank you.
And so the entire point of today was to really go through two things on the list side specifically. And if you have some questions on the buy side, we will absolutely go to the buy side as well. But we're going to start with our content for today, which is when you are on the list side, how are you managing multiple showings and then multiple offers, right? Anyone who's had a listing in the last 12 months knows that the number of showings has just continued to kind of skyrocket. And the idea of managing all of that oftentimes falls to the listing agent. So we're going to start there, then move to offers, and then move to any buy side questions that might be out there, like Julie's. So let's go ahead and bring in Debbie. Oops. So there we go.
There we go. Good. Yep.
A lot of you on that screen. My goodness. So you and I were having a conversation last week about many of the calls that we've been getting around this topic. And so I thought it would be helpful to just kind of put it out there and have an open discussion around it. Starting with being a listing agent right now in today's world, today's market, creates some interesting challenges that maybe don't exist when the market isn't moving quite as fast. And that is the challenge of multiple showings and multiple showings, meaning like weekends sell out in an hour on showing time, and then you have people clamoring for appointments over and above what's being offered in showing time. So really kind of massive numbers of showings. And I know that you've been working with that as a listing agent for the last number of months, and could help us kind of talk through some best practices and some strategies that you've been using to make this simpler for everybody.
So I always, this should come as no surprise to anybody who's heard me talk and heard Rick and me talk together about working with clients. But I always think it starts with setting expectations. And when I say that, I mean at the very beginning, where you're at the listing appointment and you ask some questions about what their expectations will be about showings in their home, what their time schedule is going to be that's acceptable to them as far as early and late. And then laying out a strategy for them that's going to get them the most visibility and inconvenience them the least. And we've had a number of situations this year where if we didn't do that, it was the poor sellers were coming, going, coming, going, coming, going, and really driving themselves crazy. And so we settled in on a recommendation that literally they find a place to be. And we have a strategy of listing on Wednesday, starting showings on Thursday, and having the seller out of the house Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, whether that's on a daily basis or they just go away for the weekend. And then managing appointments and doing, setting it up for 15-minute appointments. 15 minutes are the allotted times, and then just allowing people to schedule over and over. That allows for the most possible appointments during the time allotted. Any questions about that?
Yeah, so 15 minutes, I mean, I could just imagine the backlog on that because no one's ever on time. You know, so the 15 minutes are going to overlap, and well, I mean, it just goes, you know, frustrated. And then I've seen there's fighting at the door. Like I have the 1:15. I don't care if you're late.
That's so fascinating because, and then I'll add another layer in on this, which is there have been occasions when we have sat at the sat at the house for the high traffic time frame, just to be a traffic controller. If you know you have back-to-back appointments, be present at the house to just totally, not to interrupt, not to butt in, but just to manage that traffic. And I've also had the experience of being on the buying end. Just, in fact, what initiated this conversation with Rick was showing a house last Saturday that had all that constant showings and overlapping showings. And guess what? Our clients were late. So I think we all have the opportunity to be logical, sensible, and considerate, and say, I said to the people who were there, please go in ahead of us. We will get out of the driveway and get out of your way and go in ahead of us. And when these clients show up, we'll slip in between. And you know what? It worked just fine. So I think everybody who's in a showing situation has to use some logic and some consideration. And even if the other agents aren't doing so, we have the opportunity to layer that on top.
What Mo says, just be nice.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think the other thing, you know, we started this conversation around with setting expectations, and part of the expectation setting, I think, on the buyer side, the way that this kind of system works when you're a listing agent is to make sure that when you're on the other side, when you're on the buy side, that you are setting expectations with your own clients. You know, I mean, do people run into traffic, you know, and things outside of their control? Sure. But some people are just always 30 minutes late to everything in their life, right? And so setting the expectation with your buyer clients, and maybe even putting in the showing instructions, you know, that email or text that goes out from showing time to say, you know, look, please be on time, or be willing to cede showings to the people who actually are scheduled. You know, if you're late, you have to figure out, work it out at the door to squeeze yourself in before or after somebody else. But recognize that your slot is your slot. And I think the clearer we are on those kinds of things, so the clearer the buyer's agents can be with their own clients. I don't think we take enough time up front to make sure that the buyers understand the fragility of the system, right? You've got 15-minute slots here, and they're all booked from 9 o'clock in the morning until, you know, sundown. So let's make sure that we're not screwing up the works here.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that, 100%.
And if you have a listing that, you know, as Debbie said, you're putting it on, if there's a system in place to when you put your listings on, which I wholeheartedly encourage you to do, right? Your listings should go on the same day every week. Regardless of right now, it's about managing the momentum and making sure they get a weekend in. I think even without a fast moving market, you have an opportunity to create stability in your own business, that on Wednesdays, your listings go on. And after a while, when you're a listing agent, the market starts to expect, you know, I wonder which new WR listings are going on. It's Wednesday, right? You start getting calls on Tuesday. Hey, what new listings do you have going on, right? So you have to build up even some more pent up demand and excitement around them. But in that system, you then have Thursday and Friday as 2 weekdays, which are likely less less full, right, than the 2 weekend days. And if it's really going to be a nightmare, or as Lou said in the chat, you know, he has an older seller who has some mobility issues. If your seller is not able to get out of the house and there's going to be you know, traffic jams, well, then being there or having someone there to direct traffic for that first weekend is likely a good path forward.
I've shown a couple of Keller Williams listings, actually, where the listing agent stationed herself out in the driveway and just kind of did that as well. And it helps to avoid badly behaved agents or badly behaved buyers. It helps keep that under control.
Yeah.
Because and I'll revert to the conversation around public open houses. You know, you don't have a God-given right to go into this house if you're going to be a jerk. Excuse me. It's like the airplane. They don't let you on if you're acting like a dope. So.
Right. Well, and I think the other part of that is, with the market moving as fast as it's moving today, if you're committing as a listing agent to something like that for that first weekend, by Sunday at 5 o'clock, if you've done the right prep work to get this property on the market and positioned it correctly, you won't have to do it a second weekend.
Correct.
Right? So you know, it's a trade-off of, you get to sell it in a couple of days with multiple offers when it's managed properly, versus being a listing agent and having things go on week after week after week.
Well, and it is also your opportunity to demonstrate to your client the lengths to which you will go to make this have the best possible results for him, and that you are on top of everything. And you are, when you do then present the offers, it also gives you a chance to perhaps have kind of sized up the situation with the buyers, and maybe even had a conversation with them, so you have a little more information. And it just elevates your level of play again. And as we talk about this whole idea of best practices, certainly right now, I would call it a best practice.
I think lastly, the idea that, you know, do you make a promise to your sellers to find them an offer or the best offer, right? Do you make a promise to find a buyer or the best buyer? And the way the best buyer typically is found is to make sure that everyone who wants to see the home can see the home in that period of time. And so managing these multiple showings becomes really far more important than just traffic control. It becomes, are the right people still able to see the property in a relatively short period of time, so that the seller gets the maximum exposure and potentially the maximum number of offers that they are looking for.
Right. Right. And
yeah, go ahead.
No, I had a thought that flew right out of my head.
I'm certain it was brilliant.
It'll come back. Go ahead.
Anybody have any questions on, or additional questions on handling of the multiple showings?
I know what it was. It was bringing order to chaos, because I think that I hear a lot of freneticism and a lot of super energy, too much energy around some of these properties, most of these properties, and it reduces the chaos and brings order to the process. And I think that's really important. I think that, again, it elevates the level of play. It just looks more and feels more professional when you don't have like craziness going on all around.
Yeah, I think it bears mention as well. Even if you're not necessarily the listing agent on this property, if you're hosting an open house as not the listing agent, right? Multiple showings at an open house is still something to manage, right? And I can't remember what we were on, some mastermind or something a week or so ago, and someone said, well, you know, how on earth do you manage keeping all those people from not, you know, just kind of bombarding the house all at once? And the answer to that is really quite simple. You take control of that. You offer one person in the house at a time, right? From the health environment that we are still in, that may be more reasonable and what the seller is looking for anyway in terms of protocols. And with the number of people that are standing on the front lawn, you do want to make sure that you are managing that. So remember, you have to take control of it. It's like I said this morning, do you wake up saying, oh my goodness, the world is happening to me and I can't keep up? Or do you wake up and say, okay, here's how I am going to take advantage and control my world today? This is one of those conversations. Are you making decisions that put you in the driver's seat to control that piece of your world, and recognize that it's an important piece to control. Crowd control in these scenarios is important.
Right.
Anything else in terms of best practices or strategies in terms of managing multiple showings, Deb?
Well, and so that whole thing about having the seller go away for the weekend, I always, that's a conversation that is always had at the listing table. Is there some place where you can go? Is there a brother or a sister that you haven't seen for a while? Do you have a vacant, where are you going to be moving? Is that available to you? Can you move into that? We've had that recently with somebody. And can you just plan a little getaway? Even just for 2 days, it's very helpful. Then you can really pack up the days with showings.
Yeah, I think, again, make sure that when you're having, I love that idea, right? Just, you know, let's not make this hard. Just don't be around, right? Mm-hmm. Let's not make it hard for you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, right? And the idea of, I mean, I can even see, you know, what if it was just a fun opportunity to go and stay at a hotel for 2 nights, right? Yes, does that cost money? Sure. But remember, make sure you always have these conversations from the position of what's the benefit to the seller. Right. When the seller is not around and we don't have to work around their schedule, their in and out, their inconvenience, more people can typically see the property so that you get more opportunity to have more showings, more offers, and perhaps find that best buyer, not just a buyer.
And usually the sellers have just knocked themselves out to get the house ready for the market. So they're kind of ready for a break. What if they could just go swim in the pool, right?
Yeah, indeed. All right, so there's a couple of folks unmuted. Lydia, and who is JL? I'm not sure who JL is today, but Lydia first and then JL.
Yeah, a quick question about when you have the intervals of every 15 minutes, what's the best practice when you're going into a house and another realtor is right behind you waiting for their people to go in? Do you recommend absolutely closing off, putting the key back in the lockbox and shutting the door so they have to put in the code to get the key for themselves? Because lots of times they're like right there by the door and they just want to come in, and you know they're telling you, oh, I'll put the key back, etc.
Lydia, that goes to maintaining control. 110%. The key goes back into the key box. It doesn't matter who it is. You may know that person. It could be Chris DiBiase right behind you. You put the key back in the box.
Well, especially if it's Chris DiBiase right behind you, because that's trouble waiting to happen, right? We've heard stories.
I agree.
Right.
And you know what? One of the things, Lydia, too, that I can give you kind of a script for that if it helps. If you're in that scenario, because sometimes it feels a little awkward to be like, you know what? Yeah, I could hand it to you, but just talk about office policy. You know what? I am so sorry. I would love to just hand this to you, but our office policy is to put it back in the thing and have every new agent kind of pop that up. So sorry to kind of be a pest about that, but we're going to hold firm on that.
And you are helping the listing agent, because then the listing agent has the report. And sometimes, believe it or not, agents don't sign in if there's a sign-in sheet at the house. So it's important that they have that showing report from the Supra report system.
Yeah, indeed. Dana.
Yeah, I just want a little clarity with this. But if you as a listing agent, though, if you are there, they don't have to do anything with the key. You can just have unlocked it before the first showing, or do you make every agent that's waiting to come in do the key thing even though you're there?
So that's a great question. And then when you're there, then you just need to be sure that you have recorded everybody who has come in, and you can have that conversation. Which agent are you? So many agents you know, many agents you don't know. There are a whole bunch of agents I don't know anymore. But you need to know which agents have come into the house.
So yes. I could just ask each agent to give me their business card to make it easier then.
If you are there 100%, bridging that time frame, yes, that I would say that is correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But if it's just agents, the agents need to lock it up. Yeah.
And just from I always like to kind of add in the let's close exposure loopholes from that side of things. And from an exposure loophole in that scenario that Dana and Debbie were just talking about, I suggest absolutely tracking. But I also suggest having some version of something where the agents each sign in themselves, mm-hmm. right? So that it's easy to say, no, I wasn't there. You must have recorded that incorrectly. It's harder for someone to say, right. It's actually not my signature on that piece of paper, right? And does that matter? 9.9 times out of 10? No. But from a closing and exposure loophole perspective, if something were to go sideways or something were to end up missing or something, whatever, we want to be certain that we knew exactly who was there and could actually prove it, right? So I would say, yes, keep track and have each agent sign in if you're doing that traffic cop version of showings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jing.
Hi, Rick. I have a question is, what's the best strategy between highest and best the bidding process, or just choose the highest one, or the most suitable one? Which one is the best strategy?
So great question. And we are actually moving right now into strategies for managing multiple offers. So give us just about 2 minutes or maybe 10, and we will get there.
Okay, then I have another question is, one of my clients basically did ask me that if something missing, what to do during the showings.
So ask that again, Jing. I'm sorry, your client?
If something missing, during the open house, if something missing or damaged.
Or missing.
Right, so.
Yeah, right, and so you mean a seller client?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we'll answer that in a short bit as well. Okay. I want to just hit on, make sure that we have any questions about handling multiple showings, and then we'll address those other things.
Yeah.
Roni?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as a new agent, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, they can't control all people coming in the door and all that. As I'm just saying this, I think sometimes people are feeling overwhelmed. A new agent, if obviously it'd be give and take, I'd be more than happy, to help out. Or I'm just saying there are other people here, just making it known that, you know, if you're being overwhelmed with too many people and you can't be at the door, you might want to reach out to a new agent and kind of a give and take. They can learn about open houses, and you could, you know, have one just address, without getting in your business, but address the client that, you know, somebody else is in there. And if you don't mind waiting, something like that, just an FYI.
Yeah, great idea as well, right? Have additional personnel is sometimes a strategy that works to help control the crowds. We love that.
And I think just a last bit on buyer agents and showing buyers. I think we're all still wearing masks when we're in other people's homes. Even as everything is loosening up, that hasn't gone away. And I think that's being considerate when you're in someone else's property at this point. And I don't know, how do you feel about that, Rick? Do you see that coming to an end anytime soon?
You know what? I think I'm going to reserve comment on that today, because we're literally in the next 3 to 4 weeks, I think, are going to see a lot of changes come out from the CDC, and so an answer I might give on that today could be completely invalidated in 24 or 48 hours or 2 weeks or whatnot. Today, protocol still says, yes, when you're in somebody else's house, you stay masked up, and we have an expectation that the buyer's agents and the buyers will do the same. If that changes in the next few weeks, you will be the absolute first people to hear that from an industry perspective as that comes out, and as either the industry or we make different decisions about best practices. And
I will say, everybody that I've been, I can say everybody that I've been in contact with in the last, all of this year for sure, has been very cooperative on that score. I have never seen anybody be resistant or rebellious about that.
Yeah. And so last thing on showings that it seems to me makes sense to just chat about. If in fact something is happening kind of differently, as a listing agent, please make sure that you're doing everything you can to let people know, right? You've got to stay. I had an experience over the weekend where you know, I actually was the first bidder on a house personally, won the house, and I got a notification from Showing Time. Again, I don't know that this happens all the time, because I think it's something that has to be set up. I got a notification from Showing Time because I did have an appointment to see the property on Sunday, even though I had purchased it on Saturday, saying, please note status change. You're getting this notification because there's been a status change on this particular property. If that's a setup that has to be done in Showing Time, I encourage you, set that up. The way to keep everybody calm and smiling is to communicate, right? Don't invalidate showings or cancel showings or not answer showings, right? Be as communicative as possible. That might mean mass emailing or texting or giving a phone call to 30 different agents to kind of jostle things around. Sometimes a seller comes home unexpectedly and has to cancel a bunch of appointments, right? You've got to be on top of that. So one of the things that I have found recently is that lots of complaints come back our way because of a lack of communication. All you need to do is keep everybody updated. Say the words, I'm sorry, a lot, right? When they say, but you don't understand, this person's only here from New York today. I understand, and I'm sorry, unfortunately, the seller is unable to accommodate that one particular showing. We can see you at this time or at this time, right? Let's not make it a drama, and keep people as informed as possible so that it helps keep everybody calmer. All righty, so there's handling of multiple showings. Let's shift to handling of multiple offers, right? We're going to talk handling of multiple offers on the list side first, and then as we get towards the end of our time together, we will pivot towards any of those additional questions on the buy side and what to do in terms of missing stuff and things of that nature. So Debbie, thoughts on managing multiple offers as a listing agent? What have you been experiencing, and what are your best practice strategy, I guess?
So this has evolved, especially again since the beginning of the year, because the traffic has just been different this year, as any listing agent I think has experienced. And the last couple of houses that we've had in that have gone to multiple offers, my coach actually said to me, "What's your plan for handling offers?" And I thought, I don't know, I'm going to just collect them like I usually do. How many of you have had multiple offers on properties that exceeded four or more multiple offers? And I'm going to ask you, how much time does that take you to evaluate? Is that not a very time-consuming process?
Time consuming. And I do packages for each one. And then I do a spreadsheet to help them decipher everything so they can compare.
And you can
very time consuming.
Probably spend half a day putting all that crap together, right? Yeah. I know that had been my experience too. I remember going into people's houses with notebooks full of all of the details when we had as many as 7 offers on a property.
Yeah.
Today you don't have time for that. And I'm going to give you a couple of plans that will save you time, headaches, and also avoid missing documentation. Very important. So Rick, if I may share my screen.
You may.
Thank you. And we're going to go first to the MLS listing. And I think you're going to find that there are a few agents who are doing something on this order. And what I did on this listing was I had a URL where the offer submission details were available. This exists, and actually this is a landing page in Command. I'll just open this up so you can see.
So as you're getting there, I just want to make a point to everybody. Do you see the very first thing that Debbie did was set the proper expectations for all of the buyer's agents by having agent directions right on her listing in the MLS, explaining exactly what needed to be done, what documents needed to be included, and a link to the whole process, right? This gives everyone a step-by-step instruction guide to just follow.
And then instead of 15 phone calls or 15 texts, and even if you get the text, you can say, please refer to the agent remarks and check out the documents. So the first one is this that just goes through specifically. The agent remarks are a little abbreviated. This is not abbreviated. This tells you line by line, when you send the property, and please put the property address in the subject line. If you send an edit, put property address revised offer, please, because what I was getting was voicemails saying, oh, my offer, I love this. When people think you recognize their voice or you recognize their phone number, my offer, I need to make a change in my offer. Can you change the down payment? Well, I don't know which is your offer. And if you think I'm exaggerating that, I'm not. That's the way agents assume that, I don't know all 8,000 agents in the Fairfield County MLS.
Well, I think you should work a little harder first personally, but.
Thank you. I'll do my best. But so be specific with them and have them, give them specific instructions. So that, and then you have that to refer back to. And then the other line that it says at the bottom, first it at least specifies the documentation that you're looking for. Because again, Dee, have you ever gotten offers that were missing this, that, or the other thing? It's like,
Oh, yes, I actually have a question about that.
Okay.
So yes, exactly that. I didn't do the landing page, which I think is fantastic. I put in specifically what we needed, and then I got an offer that did not have those components. Now, the question I have is, we have to present all offers. So how does that fall then in the guidelines? Because we have set the expectation, and yet someone doesn't fill those expectations.
Here's the conversation I would have with the agent today. I would definitely call the agent and say, thank you so much. I received your offer. I noticed it's missing paperwork.
Yep.
Did you have any problem in obtaining that paperwork? Is it missing for any special reason? And why? The reason I'm calling you is I want to be sure your offer compares favorably with the other 6 offers that are on the table. Your job, buyer agent, not mine.
I even sent them the forms.
Oh, well, I wouldn't do that.
Well, I did that because she wasn't a member.
Oh, well, that's a different story. Okay.
Yeah, and I did. So I did, and still did not. So,
well,
so I did. So there you have it. I'm just curious, but we still have to present all offers, right?
Of course.
Technically.
Yes, yes. And will it make the offer look more favorable or less favorable to the seller? I mean, that's
the seller felt it was less favorable.
Put it in the seller's hands. So I'm going to repeat those couple of points.
But I thought it was excellent what you did.
They're important. So you give the agent, you don't just, blow off the other agent. That's not the point. Give them the chance nicely, kindly, for your client's advantage, and then let the chips fall where they may.
So, and as I said, Deb, I did even send her the forms.
Okay.
So as kindly and as best as I could, I set her up for success, as we all should.
Yes, without making ourselves nuts. So,
and let me say one other thing about that, because the other side of this, before we move forward, is remember that first and foremost, following lawful instruction of our client kind of trumps all of this. And so if the lawful instruction of your seller client, because you've had a conversation around how this may go, has the seller client saying, okay, you know what, you have my authority to write in wherever you have to write it in, or state to anybody out there that we will review complete offer packages only, then go for it. As long as that's not coming from you, if it's coming from the seller and they give you the written authority to go ahead and make the statement, that the seller is only interested in reviewing complete offer packages, and the please note the agent remarks or our landing page, whatever, our website, to outline to which will explain what that looks like. So that's the other side of that. Yes, we have to submit all offers, and the seller has a right to empower you, if they so choose, to say, I'll review things when they're correct.
I will just add one point to this. This has all come about because of our current environment, because the way we used to do business and the way we could get away with doing business with one offer now and then is different today. It's very different. And we need to have a system in order to keep, and these sound like the same words over and over again, in order to maintain order in the process. It's very important not to lose details. So the second, yes.
Excuse me, it's Mary. Could you, when you have an opportunity, show the other landing page again so I could take a picture of it?
Sure, absolutely. And then I'm going to move on to this offer submission form, which this will change your life. I will guarantee it. It's like, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? So we start with this one, Mary. It's just called Offer Submission Guidelines. And when you create this, you'll notice this is very generic. I don't have a property referenced in this because I started out with a specific property offer submission guidelines. That was a pain in the neck to have to recreate it for every property. This is just the standard. This is what you expect in a multiple offer situation. Notice the last thing says all offers should be submitted based on time specified in the MLS. You designate a day and a time. Please bring your buyer's best offer since there may not be an opportunity to go higher or make counter offers. So somebody asked about highest and best. I'll tell you, I always, for a buyer, as well as in these instructions, always tell the buyers, please present an offer that you don't expect to get countered, that you're ready, you're willing to offer this much money and have it accepted or not. Bring your best offer the first time.
And Deb, at some point, I know you're teaching landing pages on Wednesday, I think, is that right?
I am teaching landing pages on Wednesday, yes.
So Wednesday at 3 o'clock, guys, if you're interested in more of the kind of how to create these, can you cover some of that on Wednesday, Debbie?
Of course, 100%. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Wednesday at 3 o'clock, guys, for more info on how to build something like this.
Yep.
So Debbie, this page offer submission guidelines, is you created by yourself or is like default format from a command?
No, this is 100% custom. You decide what you expect in your business for people to present you with offers that are going to be multiple offer.
Okay, and then the client care at homevisiongroup.com, that is everybody can use the same thing or like it's different?
Well, that's my email for my team.
Okay.
That's a specific email. That's not the typical one that I use all the time. So the offers go in there so they're not getting mixed up with my personal email.
Okay, gotcha.
It's just an extra Gmail account.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Deb, I have to run, unfortunately. I wish I could stay because I want to see more. Can you share?
You can do just 2 more minutes, Dee. I want you to see this.
Okay.
Just 2 minutes. So
all right.
I'm going to go straight here. So this is a Google form that you just create in Google Forms. And it has a bunch of, it's like a cover letter. I refer to it as the cover letter for your offer. So I want to know the agent and the agent's cell number, the brokerage the agent works for, the buyer's names, their offer price, what inspections do they plan to perform, what's their cash on contract, what's their mortgage amount, who is the lender, what's their close date, do they have a house to sell, and is it in contract and how far along? And then is there anything else I need to know? Here's the magic of this form. Some of you know this already. Oh my goodness, watch this. When they fill that form out, it converts to a spreadsheet and it converts to a Google Sheet. And I've taken the agent names and the buyer names out to protect the identities. But whether you have 3 offers or 12 offers, this saves you literally hours of evaluation. You don't have to print everything out. You don't have to sort through the different formats on different offer paperwork. And it allows you now, this is an edited, this is a completely edited. This is not the way they came in at first, because what happens is when the revised offers come in, I change the color of the type so I know that I have received everybody's highest and best.
Are you showing this on Wednesday also or not, or is this something separate? I mean,
this is not part of Wednesday's class, but we can go over it another time. But here's the other thing. You then can go on a Zoom call with your clients. You don't have to go to their house, and you can look at this and talk through all the details of the various offers, and together they are able to choose which offer they want.
This is fantastic. I can't even say. So yeah.
It's magic, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I would love to learn how to do this particular thing.
So Debbie, I just have a question on this form. Does this give them the ability to upload their documents?
So yes, so there are two formats. Jody uses something called JotForm to do the same thing. Jody, do you end up with a spreadsheet like this?
I end up with a spreadsheet, and I end up with all the documents.
Yeah, and both Google Forms and JotForm allow you to upload documents as well. JotForm, you don't have to have a Google account. So JotForm, and that's the advantage of JotForm.
Right. I think that's why we ended up with JotForm rather than Google.
Correct.
So just to take a half a step back, so everyone understands exactly kind of where we were.
Oops, what was that? Hello.
Where we were, and I don't know, is someone having a problem at their house? The directions were in the agent remarks in the MLS listing. The first direction was a link, a bit.ly link to a landing page that talked about what the submissions needed to look like. The second link, also a bit.ly link, right? And for those of you who don't know what bit.ly links are, bit.ly is just a service that you can take the long link and shorten it down to something simple, right? I think you just go to bit.ly.com or bit.ly something, Google bit.ly, and you'll get to their site. It's a free service, and it shortens the link length, so you can pop it in here simply. So the second one is what Debbie just showed you, right? So you can see that it says to get, please fill out the buyer info cover form obtained at this link. So then at that link, the Google Sheet pops up, or the JotForm, depending on what you're using. They fill in the information, can attach the documentation and hit submit, which then populates that last form Debbie showed you, which is the spreadsheet, right? So it's automating and giving direction to the buyer's agents. It's giving direction to the buyer agents and then automating for the listing agent, you the listing agent, the ability to compare and contrast all of the information. And what's so awesome, I think, about all this is that it systematizes the submission process such that you're getting the same information from everybody, because they have to literally fill in the blanks as they go through the form. So it eliminates a lot of holes, or a lot of this is missing, that is missing. Nothing will eliminate it 100% of the time. Just so for any of you who are going to say, well, but one time, yes, that's always going to happen. That's called life in real estate, right? But for the most part, this systematizes a process that used to take a whole bunch of time. Think about this from the perspective of, one of the last things I heard from somebody in the eastern part of the county was that there were 52 offers on this property that she represented. 52 offers, right? So like without some kind of a system in place, there's no way to juggle all of that. Excellent.
Well, you know that if there are 50 offers, some of them are not getting 100% attention. They can't. That would take a week and a half. I mean, so you can't get all of that unless you have something like this.
Yeah, right. Well, and then what's cool about this is if you had 52 offers here, right, you could maybe skew things down and tell me, okay, well, just show me all the cash offers, or just show me all the offers over 700, or just show me all the offers that have a close date of, you know, X or later, or X or earlier.
Just
So
with every sheet, you can sort. You can sort anything. And,
most importantly, what we did when we created the JOT form, in the back of my head, I kept on hearing Debbie say, this lets each agent do their own donkey work, right? Could you imagine if you had to be the agent who is filling this in for every single offer, whether it's 52 or whether it's 5 or 10, it's still a whole lot of time. And this way, each agent has to do their own donkey work for their own offer.
Yep. This came about after I had to spend all of one Sunday evening just entering data. And I thought there's just got to be a better way. And then my coach led me to this, which was awesome. So I'm going to add one more thing just as far as evaluating offers, because I heard highest and best, which is a term that I really hate. I don't like that. I prefer to refer to and to ask for best terms, because the seller is going, and the seller needs an education on this as well. Sellers have a tendency to hear, oh, you can get multiple offers, I don't need an agent. Nothing could be more untrue at this point, because the evaluation of these offers, would it surprise you to know that the offer that was accepted was not the 705 offer? I mean, it was 20,000 more than the next group of offers. They didn't accept that offer, and for their own reasons. But the conversation revolved around evaluating price, move-in date, financing. And I'm going to ask you all, is cash always king? Not always. Appraisals. And if you get involved in an appraisal waiver that the buyer is willing not to make the appraisal a condition, I have learned that you need to ask for proof of funds for them if they need to make up some cash. So I ask, if they say, oh, we'll waive the appraisal, okay, show me your proof of funds that you can make up $10,000 or $25,000 difference, or whatever it is. Inspection expectations. So that can be, oh, we'll take it as is. And then you would drill down, I drill down and say, we actually established in the offer that we accepted, anything less than $2,500 in an inspection, the buyer would eat. If there was an issue that was more than $2,500, we would discuss it, but anything less was considered a minor item, and they wouldn't make a fuss about it. So far, so good. And so my last question is, has anybody ever worked with a seller who said, I want to work with the most complicated offer that you bring me? Bring me a hard offer. Most people want this to be as easy as, most sellers want this to be as easy as possible to, and to net them what's going to be an acceptable amount of money. I'm not going to say the most funny possible, but an acceptable, smooth transaction. Does that all make sense?
Right, and as you're going through the process of building one of these on your own, you can see, I already looked at the form Debbie showed us and said, I wonder if there's a way, right? Because sometimes people will default to lazy. Debbie actually asked, what inspections are your client doing? Please list all inspections. That was the instruction. And many of the lines had building inspection, pest, well, water, whatever. Some of them said all inspections. One line said standard inspections. Well, what does that mean, right? All inspections. Are you going to inspect the pool? Is there a pool to inspect? Are you going to do a lead paint test? Are you bringing a mold expert in, right? What does all mean? And so recognize that as you continue to use these, you'll have opportunities to say, huh, you know what, if I could make that different and make it more specific such that the spreadsheet populates with as much information as possible, you can continue to adapt and change that as you get answers, right?
When we started using this form, a couple of people I talked to said, well, I wonder if agents will fill that out. I've never had anybody not fill it out. If they want their offer to be considered, they're going to fill it out.
That's right. That's right. All this does is systematize things, guys. And you know, as I said this morning in my May 10th resolutions conversation, right? Don't get so hung up on the way it used to be done that you're an instantaneous dinosaur in the industry. You've got to continue to look forward and figure out, what am I doing differently today to create different and better results? And you know, Debbie's right. Someone wants to say, oh, I'm not filling that out. We've never been asked to do that before. Okay, I hope your clients are happy not obtaining that particular house, because those are the rules. That's how we do it, right? Guys, the commercial world and the distressed property world have been doing things like this for eons. It's just that on the residential side, we have a little too much flexibility, let's call it, right? Because for the most part, we've never been in a position where something like this was a necessary tool to be able to make sure we can continue moving forward swiftly. In this environment, it is.
I think if you go back to the guidelines for submission, one of the things that we have, a line that we have in there is, we don't want any details to get lost. And this is for the protection of your buyer. So it's always to the benefit of the other party. And again, so far, so good. And I love David's comment about the monetary condition. I liked that too, David. I picked that up from somebody not too long ago to set a cap on what was considered a minor item. And they do that a lot in other parts of the country. And we've adopted that. That's now my standard.
Love it.
Excuse me, do they set on those monetary conditions, do they set a maximum amount? I mean, what if you had 15 items that were $2,500?
Well, anything that's less than $2,500 is considered a minor item. So they just stay, we're not going to address those. That's the privilege of home ownership. Okay. If it's more than 2,500, then we'll have a conversation.
Yeah, so that minimum, Mary, was set to about what we'll address. Mm-hmm. If it's not at least a $2,501 item, it's automatically not being addressed by the seller, right? Instead of the other way around. If it is a $2,500 in one item or above, it's not automatically a seller item. It's just it's a discussion. You now have the right to at least communicate that to us, and we'll consider it. Mm-hmm. But it sets the standard for, there's a little piece of peeling paint on the back deck. Get over it. Move past it.
So that's something you tell the buyer ahead of time before the inspection?
In the negotiations, that's a conversation that we have in the negotiations, and we will put it into the offer. Before the seller signs the offer, that little phrase goes into the offer.
Okay.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
So quick question. I might have missed this because I had to run out and grab an important call, but the one item that I struggle with here is that many times the listing agent, when you're representing the buyer, doesn't quite know or present a deadline for accepting offers, but because you're one of the first ones in. So the idea is that it's not to give a final and best that early so I, you know, that's where I'm having a struggle. Like, look, it's going to, you know, there's going to be a final and best. So I wouldn't come in with your final and best right now because it's, you know, you don't know how long this is going to last. So I just wanted some feedback on timing for that final or for that best terms. Cause I like Debbie, I use that same term. I'll say it's all about terms. It's not about final and best. It's about best terms.
So what I would say about that is, I don't think you can assume that you're going to have an opportunity to come back with another counter. You may not receive a counter. I think buyer agents make a mistake to make that assumption, because do they get that opportunity maybe 80% of the time? Yes. Are there times when they don't get that opportunity? Yes, 100%. And David, I know what you're saying. We had a situation, everybody's had all these situations in the last 90 days where a house came on the market and they took the first offer that came in and didn't show the house anymore. It's like, wow, that didn't make any sense to me. It made sense to their seller, and I guess that's all that mattered. So ask the agent what their expectation, their plan is for receiving offers. Are you going to take the first best offer that comes in? Do you expect your sellers will continue to show the house after? Ask a bunch of questions. Have just your list of questions that you need to know in order to frame up your buyer's offer. We don't ask enough questions of the other agent.
Well, here's an example of that. I mentioned I purchased a house this past weekend. It came on the market on Saturday morning. By noon, I had an over asking offer in with almost every contingency I could think of. Right. And all afternoon, it was a 24-hour notice thing. So the first opportunity to see it was Sunday. This was Saturday. By dinner time, I went back to the listing agent and said, okay, so again, do we have an acceptance? And she came back to me and said, well, there are showings scheduled tomorrow and the seller wants those showings to take place. And I said, I get it. So withdraw my offer. And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, I wrote the offer such that he would be inclined to say yes to me tonight to prevent those other showings from happening. If that's not going to happen, then we withdraw our offer. And so she went back to him and told him that. He countered to our offer $5,000 higher. It was already over asking. He countered $5,000 higher and said, if you'll pay me an extra $5,000, I will sign tonight. And I said, done. I'm happy to do that. Right. And so it was that scenario. So my point is, sometimes we have to be willing to be a little bit more aggressive with the buyers. That's a conversation with your buyers, right? Your buyers have to be okay with the what if you get called out on that. If you get called out on, I'm withdrawing my offer so that those showings can happen tomorrow, then you have to be either be willing to make it again tomorrow at the end of the day or decide house is not for me.
And so I'm going to put all of you in the shoes of the other buyer agents who have told their buyers, oh, I'm sure you'll be able to get an offer in by the end of Sunday. And guess what? That seller got a good offer and had every right to say yes to that offer and not accept anything else.
Yeah, I just make sure we shut them out, right? So sometimes you have to do what you have to do up front and shut it. Now, will that work all the time? No. There will be some sellers who say, I don't care about what you're going to do. I want these showings tomorrow, right? I want multiple offers. That's awesome. But at least if I go back and say, look, we created this offer and wrote it this way to entice you to say yes before the 79 other showings that might happen. If you're interested in having those showings, then we take ours off the table and we'll see what happens, right? Or else my offer just sits there and waits around for others to gather, right? So again, you have to be willing to play that, or the buyers have to be willing to play that if in fact that's a strategy they want to employ. But that's what I just did on Saturday.
So Rick, this one, like for the seller's agent, we should discuss this with the seller as well, right? Basically say, we may have this kind of situation. In this kind of situation, what would you like to do?
I think that's a really good idea, Jing. I think having these upfront conversations with your seller as the listing agent allows you to streamline the process once it all starts to happen, right? So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what we've noticed as we're about to go on the market tomorrow. Here's what we've noticed, a couple of things that we wanted to bring to your attention. This could happen, or this could happen. In these scenarios, here are some options and some strategies we've been using to help streamline and help you kind of figure things out. In this scenario, which path do you think you might walk down? In this scenario, which path do you think you might walk down? Then at least it's in their head, even if they don't make specific decisions, they've at least heard it before. And so when it starts to happen, you can go back and kind of streamline those conversations. I think that's a really excellent idea. Yes.
We won't get blindsided.
Right, right, exactly.
Good.
All right, guys. So that's our conversation around multiple showings and multiple offers. Any other questions on multiple showings or multiple offers on the list side? I don't know if Julie is still on. She is. Julie, I'm happy to stay on a little bit afterwards and address your question on the buyer side. I think we answered everybody else's questions, right? Any other questions on multiple offers or showings as a listing agent? Questions, comments, concerns, strategies?
This has been really helpful. Thank you, Debbie and Rick.
Debbie?
Sorry,
this is Lou. Hey, Debbie, this is Lou.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lou.
Oh, just going back to Mary's question. So if you have a $2,000 to replace hot water heater and then another $2,000 for an air conditioning condenser, that's not $4,000. That's two separate.
Yeah.
Those are
everything.
I mean,
everything is open to conversation.
Right.
The seller can decide what they're willing to do about that. It's just about setting an expectation, particularly in the buyer's mind. What I'm finding is buyers are so different right now in terms of what they're willing to handle. And yet it doesn't mean that they don't ask. They still will ask for things, and sellers sometimes have to go back and say, well, you know, when we said these were the terms, that's what we meant. So everything is open for conversation. It's just kind of drawing a line in the sand, as it were.
And what I'll tell you is that when you are proactive by saying, you know, we're setting a number of $2,500 as the minimum, you know, per issue amount that we will address, you will immediately eliminate probably 50% across the board of people coming back, even if there was a $2,000 plus a $2,000 plus a $2,000, because the rules say if it's not $2,500 per instance, we're not addressing it. So you'll eliminate a lot of it, just not all of it. And then the sellers and the buyers can certainly discuss if the buyers bring something back like that.
And you know what you really get rid of? You get rid of all those $305 plumbing and electrical.
Leaky faucet, kind of, yeah. Got it. Thank
you. Okay.
All right, guys. So, so Julie, ask your question. So again, we are finished with the session with regards to multiple showings and multiple offers on the list side. I know Julie had a question at the beginning about being on the buy side and what else can be done. So if you want to hang out and kind of listen to that discussion, great. If not, have an awesome day today, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Go ahead, Julie. Ask that question again.
Okay, I apologize too. I'm getting my hair cut right now. So sorry. So it might be noisy. So I have a buyer that's going to put in an offer. I know we're in a multiple offer situation. We're trying to make sure we come in at 5 to 10% over. We're putting some cash down, 30% cash down. We're waiving, as far as terms, inspections, they're having the inspection, but it's just for information. We're trying to make sure we have everything, just that we look so super stellar. We're even writing a letter, attaching a photo. I'm just trying to make sure, is there any other things that I'm missing?
Is the offer cash or financing?
It's part financing and part cash. So it's 30% cash, and then they would finance the rest, but they're selling their house in Florida, but it's not predicated. They don't have to sell that first.
So here's my question. Do they have the other 70% in cash? Can they buy it cash and then do just delayed financing afterwards?
No, they'd have to finance that 70%.
So, and the reason I ask that is because cash offers tend to get more attention than financing. Right. So the first thing to do is to see if they can make it cash in some way. Again, I just did that over the weekend. I have every intention of obtaining a mortgage, but I put the cash up front to win, and then as soon as we close, I'll do that delayed financing and take the cash back out. So if they can't do that, then best foot forward, right? I would. Who's working the financing?
It's HSBC.
Oh, really? Does it have to be HSBC?
I think that's where I can ask, but I think that's where everything is.
Yeah, so big banks are not anybody's favorites in terms of where loans are coming from. I think I think the buyers would do much better if they chose a local mortgage broker and push through that way. Again, just my opinion. It doesn't mean HSBC can't and won't perform. It's just that big banks tend to have people look sideways at them and because you can't ever get a hold of anybody and that kind of thing. So why I ask that is because I know that certainly our mortgage partners have programs available where they're like pre-underwritten. Everything is pretty much done. You just have to find a property and insert the address and have the appraisal come through. So
yeah, I did have them ask HSBC for an underwriting letter to say that, listen, they're pre-approved and they're ready for underwriting.
Okay, yeah, so like one of those to be determined loans might help. And then the only other couple of things that I can suggest are putting down, if they're putting down 30%, what if they just wrote that check right up front? Right, how much is the property?
It could be 1.2.
Right. So what if they just decided to write the check for $40,000 or whatever that amount is, right?
Right.
And use that as their 1% instead of doing 1% and then the rest later, because it shows right. Strength in terms of the cash. Or if they don't want to do that, and depending on how they want to play this, they could write the check for the full 30% down. Or some version of it that's more than just the 1%, and then make right. A portion of that non-refundable.
Yeah.
So there's the idea of making at least a portion of it non-refundable until or unless the sellers don't accept their offer, right? So it gives the sellers comfort in, okay, if we say yes to you, this money is now at risk, regardless of what are the things the contract says. This 10,000, this 25,000, whatever. If you change your mind for whatever reason, is non-refundable. And that's one way that I have seen sellers say, these people, A, are serious, B, they're willing to put that money at risk, which means they're not going to all of a sudden wake up on Friday morning and change their mind or
right and back out, because that's
exactly right.
A lot of them are, especially in Ridgefield, you're getting a lot of New York buyers that are sort of putting holds on properties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another question. Again, as a listing agent, right? So for example, if the offer came in like with a pretty pretty high, the offer is pretty high, but like when they do the inspection, they actually negotiate a lot. So in that situation, what to do?
Set a different standard.
Yeah, that's right. As a listing agent, have that conversation with your seller up front and know what the seller is willing to address and what seller is not willing to address, right? I mean, today, most sellers shouldn't feel like they are in a position to have to really do much of anything with regards to inspections, even if they're asked for after the fact.
But like if for example, like in your situation, you want to put an extra $5,000, and then we have to cancel all of the showings, and then after the inspection, you said no, that is not what I want. In that case, what to do?
Well, and so the mortgage was not a contingency in my contract. So now my deposit's at risk because the mortgage was, I mean, the inspection, I was still doing my inspection, but it wasn't a contingency. It was for my own informational purposes only. So, you know, accepting offers from buyers who waive the right to cancel the contract just because they don't like something at the inspection is what I recommend from the sellers.
And that's one thing we actually are going to go in with is a contract versus an offer to purchase or purchase agreement.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
page. I would add two things. One thing is at this moment, and I'm not suggesting that sellers misbehave, but at this moment, the sellers are in the driver's seat, plain and simple.
Absolutely.
And if the buyers are starting to browbeat the sellers just can take a firm stand. And it has been, the tables have been turned for so long, it's just refreshing to not have the sellers getting beat up. Don't let your sellers get beat up today. Today, they should be able to not be fresh and not be greedy, because there's a temptation to be a little greedy sometimes as a seller right now. Keep the level, stay rational about that. But do remind the buyers that there are other buyers out there and they may not get the house. I want to also show you form as well as a function in terms of submitting an offer. Who was asking the question, Lisa? Who was about how to make a strong offer?
Julie.
Julie. All right. If you can see your screen, Julie, we have been using.
You just don't want to see me right now.
Sorry. We have been using an executive summary for offers. And this is just the email. I mean, when most seller agents are not asking for that cover letter that we are asking for. So when we are on the buyer side, we created what we call an executive summary. And we put all of this rosy language in here, and we give them the background, and we give them all the details, and we give them every single document that's attached, we specify right there. And then we end with excitedly, hopefully, something positive.
That's really cute. I like that, yes.
But it's
I just
cute.
took a screenshot.
I'll tell you what, it's cute. Here's what it is more important than cute. It gets listing agents' attention. And we have had more than one time when we've won out because we presented it that professionally. No joke. Always, okay, great. always gets a second look.
Do you mind sending that just to me in an email? Is that okay to share?
I can forward that to you for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. It's Sutherland.
Yeah, and so if we'll forward it to everybody. So if you're on the call, I'll just forward it to everybody after class. If your name is iPhone 7 or something please just put your name in the chat so I know that you were here. I can see almost everybody. I just don't know. I know there was an iPhone here earlier. I don't know who that was. So more than that, Julie, kind of waiving as many things as the buyers are comfortable with, stripping things down, making sure that I think one of the important things to waive, if in fact they are secure in their ability to obtain the financing, is you can obtain the mortgage, but are they able to waive the mortgage contingency? So it's not contingent on their ability to get it. They need to speak with somebody about the risks involved in that. but that's a big one. If you have financing, it's a big plus if they'll waive the contingency on it, and the appraisal contingency, right? Okay, so it's all those boots and suspenders, all the bubble wrap that often comes with buyers. You really kind of have to strip that away for the offer to be as simple and as acceptable as possible going with the absolute highest number in terms of price. Don't have them leave anything on the table, because as Debbie said, you may not get a second bite at that apple. I would be if they are able, the answer to closing date is at seller's discretion. We'll close whenever the seller wants to, right?
Yeah.
All of those kinds of things.
If they can offer them a free rent back, a delayed departure, that's also very helpful to some sellers right now.
Yeah. And if you haven't asked the listing agent a bunch of questions, hey, where are the sellers going? When's their preferred closing date? Anything that is important to them that I could let the buyers know to kind of include in the offer. Just ask for any amount of help from the listing agent that they're willing to give.
I asked all kinds of questions. It's Amy Mosley, so she was really helpful as much as she could be.
Yeah, excellent. And here's what I can tell you, especially with Amy Mosley, because a month ago, Amy texted me and she actually sent me a video of I think she had 19 offers on a property. 12 of them were incomplete in terms of.
I knew that. I saw, just to your point, I was listening to Deb as she was telling us just a few minutes ago, and I was like, gosh, that is so great, because you do need to be a stickler about having all those details, but you're right.
Yeah. Well, and Amy's point to me was, okay, so now I have these 19 offers, 12 of them are incomplete with either missing signatures, missing paperwork, missing numbers in terms of price offered. One of them wasn't even signed by the buyers, right? And so her point to me was, how frustrating is that? Because on behalf of the sellers now who want to address these offers, I now have to spend my time as the listing agent going back and chasing down all the buyer's agents to get proper paperwork. And so my point is, if you just stand out and make sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed and it's really strong and it's as stripped down as possible, that's what it takes to win nowadays.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you guys so much.
Sure thing. Good luck.
Good.
All right, guys. Have an awesome afternoon. We'll get that executive summary out to you shortly, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Have a good one. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.